What's up? We got Supergirl Season 1, Episode 18, World's Finest. So this episode starts off with, them trying to figure with them trying to figure out what's up with Siobhan. Because remember last episode, she was, and they're like, she's not an alien, but she's not human, and she's like, so you're telling me that you can't do nothing? Thanks a lot. Siobhan, you're still the worst. And she's like, oh, and when did you know Supergirl? And he's like, I was going to tell you that. And then she just gets all weird and is like, bye. So then she goes to her grandma, and her grandma's like, hey, her family's always been hated. But when Kara made her lose her job, it activated her powers, okay? So then she tries to kill Kara, but that's when our boy Barry shows up and saves her life. Okay, Barry shows up. Barry Allen, the Flash, he just shows up, and he's like, hold up, what's going on here? And he's like, she's Supergirl. And he's like, you're who now? And she's like, she's like, I'm the Flash. And he's like, I don't know who you are. And he's like, you don't know Black Canary, you don't know Green Arrow, Black Canary, Firestorm, Zoom. And she's like, no, should I? But I don't get it. In episode like 14, she was like, I thought the mask was in the other city. Does that mean National City? There was another city that has masks? So yeah, so he's like, I think I'm Barry Allen, faster than alive. I think I'm on the wrong Earth. So we get a crossover between Supergirl and the Flash. And boy, does this, as I said, Falling is one of my favorite episodes of Supergirl. But I think it's number 2. I think they're both the same as both my favorite episodes of Supergirl Season 1. And since from this episode, we only have 2 episodes of Supergirl Season 1 left. They're my both favorite episodes of Supergirl Season 1. And I only got 2 episodes of Supergirl Season 1 left. So Siobhan decides to break Livewire out of prison because Siobhan's like, hey, you want to kill Cat Grant and I want to kill Kara. Let's team up. And she's like, yeah, first off, you need a new suit. So Kara and Supergirl and the Flash show up to fight Livewire, but Livewire's like, hey, I got a new friend. Meet Silver Banshee. And she's like, and she makes Kara bleed. And she's like, and Barry tries to speed around Livewire without realizing that Livewire has electric powers, and is like, thanks for the charge, and knocks Barry aside. Like, Barry, you really didn't they tell you that she had electricity? So yeah, so she's like, hey. So Siobhan's like, oh, I thought I was cursed, but now I know I'm cursed for the better. And fights, and she's like, once I kill you two, I'm gonna kill Kara Danvers. And she's like, Kara Danvers is more tough than you thought, and beats her. So back at the, they're like, hey, he's what should we call you? And she's like, Speedy, and he's like, no, I'm the Flash. So then they go to Cat Grant's office, and Cat Grant's like, wow, you guys look like the diverse cast of a CW show. Funny that this show would later go on to the CW. So making a CW jab, knowing that you later go on to the CW Supergirl, is very interesting. So it's pretty interesting. So yeah, so she's like, oh, the Supergirl's got competition. She's like, I wouldn't call competition, more like a sidekick. And he's like, he's definitely not a sidekick. And she's like, what should we call him? The Red Streak? The Blue? And he's like, those are terrible names. Call him the Flash. And she's like, the Flash all seems like a bad name. The Blur seems like a bad name. Ripping off of Smallville. Also a very good jab at Smallville. Ripping off of Smallville now. So yeah. So Kara's like, hey, Livewire is gonna come attack you. Get Kara and go. And she's like, I'm not going anywhere. Yeah. So, like, I'm not going anywhere, bah. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here. So, yeah, so she's like, hey, Cat, someone needs to call you. And she's like, oh, my ex-former minions working together. This is like a something. And she's like, and he's like, hey, Siobhan, you don't want to do this. And she's like, yeah, I do. And she's like, no, you don't. And she's like, I'm fine as is. And defeat to win. And they kidnap Cat. So Barry and Kara talking. They're talking about Blackout earlier. So they're like, hey, Screechy, Zappy, let's fight like women. And Barry's like, and he's like, hey, there's more of you than there are of him. Which is kind of hilarious, because she's like, wait, what? You're a man, dude. Why are you talking like fight like women when you're a dude? So I like this reference where a helicopter's about to come down, but then Live Wire is like, I hate helicopters, which is a reference to season 1, episode 4/5, when 4 or 5, depending on the air date, because the helicopter was the reason why she got her powers in the first place, and she hates helicopters. Pretty good nod. And this is also the last appearance of Siobhan as a character. So I feel like this is a disappointing final appearance for her. She just becomes a villain, and then she's just gone. Like, that's her entire. She becomes Silver Banshee, and she's just gone. Never come back again. Livewire does though, but not Banshee. She's just gone. Never appears again. Never shows up. She's just gone. I guess her actress would later go on to Designated Survivor and go on to, as I said before, she's married to Robbie Mill, who plays Ron Raymond. But as for Supergirl, this is a disappointing final appearance for this character. I didn't like her, but for a villain, she finally became a villain. Then she just left. So the people finally forgive Supergirl, and she's like, "Hey, you were going to string her up, and now you're going to die for her." And she's like, "She was willing to die for us." So what? Her dying is what forgives them after her attacking them when she was on the kryptonite phase. Like, okay, they fear her, and then she just saves their lives one day, and randomly they're like, "Oh, we're with you, Supergirl. I thought this could take some time." But no, it doesn't. They're just like, "Oh, we saved you. You saved our lives, but you also endangered our lives at the same time. So guess what? We're on your side." This could have taken some time. Here's what I've done better. They'll take some time. She still does this, but they still have some fear and contempt, and she tries to make it up to them, but no, they're just like, oh, I guess since Supergirl's willing to die for us, we're gonna immediately trust her again, because why? Show. I don't get this. Why did they randomly trust her again? It would have been interesting if she just if this still happened, but instead they say this, but when behind the scenes, they still have and Kara still has to trust them. Even in a later scene, she was like, they still don't trust her, and she even helped them build their IKEA table. But still, this would have been an interesting scene if Kara had, like, if they said this, but they still didn't trust her, and Kara had to still earn back that trust. But no, after one episode of fearing her, they're just like, oh, guess what? We're now back on your side, Supergirl. Even, like, it took one episode for this to happen. One episode. That's pretty lame. That's a pretty lame go out. Like, I would have had to still be afraid of her, but I would have had them, like, her still having big trouble trying to earn their trust. But they're willing to die. She's willing to die for them, and they're just like, okay, hey, Supergirl, guess we trust you again. That I don't agree with that. Some people may disagree with me, but I don't agree with that. They should have done it. They could have had her, be mistrusting. Anyway, back to the actual scene. the firefighters also now trust her again. Okay, and they stop them. They arrest Livewire and Silver Banshee. Bye Silver Banshee. You were a villain for what, 1 episode, and your win relationship lasted for what, 2 episodes. So guess, yeah, this is just okay. Anyway, so Cat Grant knows who Barry is because she's able to figure out that Barry's Flash. Cause that's what she. So she's like, hey, tell Mr. Allen to have fun in his rich suit. And she's like, you knew who is the Flash? She's like, yeah, of course. The Flash shows up the same minute Barry Allen shows up. That's kind of not a coincidence. So then Barry's like, hey, Kara Danvers, bye. She's like, bye, Barry Allen. And he's like, bye, Kara Danvers, or Kara Zor-El, which is your alien name because you're an alien. And he's like, hey, we should do some more team-ups, which is obviously true because they do some more team-ups down the line, which we'll get to. But anyway, then she pushes them through, and then James comes over, he kisses, but then James starts acting stone cold, and she's like, was their kiss bad or was something else? And then he just leaves, and then when Non's like, Miria's ready, and then we see the national city, all national city, just walking like a march. Anyway, this was a pretty fun episode. It was cool to see Barry and Kara interact, even though I kind of didn't like how they immediately had this national city townspeople immediately get Supergirl's trust back after 1 episode of not having it. That could have been done differently. Banshee was kind of a wasted villain because she doesn't even appear again after this episode. So she was kind of just in there to just be there. They could have just had her just in that scene and then just take her out of the episode entirely. They could have just had Livewire. They could have had to break her out, and then they say, oh, she went, like, they could have just had her get captured off screen. But no, she just helps Cat, and then they save Cat, and then guess what? She's just never seen again. I liked this episode. It was cool to see Barry and Kara interact for the very first time. It was cool to see Flash interact with another character besides Green Arrow. Besides Green Arrow. It was cool to see him interact with Supergirl. But I would have done differently 2 things. One, the Silver Banshee have more of an interactive plot or appear more. And 2, the townspeople could have had... Yeah, the townspeople, Kara, they didn't like her in the last... They were still having fear and contempt, feeling that they could have... That Supergirl could betray them again. But then in this episode, there's like, guess what? We're on your side now. That could have been done differently. I didn't like how they did that. But anyway, that was it for this video. And I'll see you next time for some more Supergirl. We only got 2 episodes left. And I hope they're enjoyable. Before we start the CW Supergirl on the CW. Obviously, because it's going on CW. It was on CW for 6 seasons. But anyway, I'll see you next time for some more Supergirl. Let's always stay super. Always stay super.